and Address Criminalization of Homelessness. So my co-presenter today would be Mr. Don Gardner. And we thought we would start this presentation out with addressing the criminalization of homelessness first. Okay, hang on. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Okay, all right.
Will we all silence our phones, please?
Yeah. So criminalizing homelessness, and as we all know, it is a policy that has worsened the crisis. And some of us say a crisis, but with the current administration and the funding that's going on, it's going to be more than a crisis. It's going to be an epidemic. So that's something that we truly want to keep in mind. And let's define what the issue truly is of criminalization of homelessness. It refers to the laws and policies that punish people for acts of survival. Acts of survival. What are those? Sleeping, resting, or seeking shelter in public because you have no other place to go. Or how about this? Just exercising your bodily functions. That's a part of our life. But we have no place to go to do that. There are currently 48 states that have at least one, and most of those states are very numerous, laws that criminalizes basic life sustaining activities, the things that we just talked about. Arrests and citations create records that make employment and housing harder. And we all know that those two generally go hand in hand, right? And of course, what these laws do, it deepens the poverty level and increases trauma, but not just trauma for those who are surviving homelessness, but it also traumatizes our communities, which we're going to see here in the very near future. But let's dive deep into understanding the crisis of criminalization. We're going to go over a little statistics. Homelessness in the US increased by 18%, and that's just from 2023 to 2024, affecting over 777,000 individuals. Now, keep in mind that number is just from 2023 to 2024, and the numbers continually to climb. The systemic causes of this issue, housing shortages, or as people like to say, lack of affordable housing. And that's a term that needs to change because affordable housing takes a whole different definition depending on your income stream or lack of income at all. Economic stability, which we're facing in this country right now. And one of the paramount reasons is weak social safety nets. Weak social safety nets. Mom and dad helping you out of that short-minute rental issue that you had are no longer there because mom and dad are probably having those same issues as well. And now what turned out to be a this month problem eventually turns into a loss of housing problems. Other social safety nets, especially for those that are just getting by. What would one of those be? Let's say loss of SNAP benefits for 2 months. Just making enough to possibly put food on the table for 2 of the 3 members of your household. Now you have to take whatever other money you had left to ensure that your family eats. Most likely that money comes from your rent. What other social safety nets that we might have lost here recently? Let's just say that the federal government's shutting down for almost 2 months. I live in Washington, D.C., and many of my friends are the people that had those great government jobs, the ones that we never have to worry about and you can retire from and enjoy the rest of your life sitting on a beach somewhere. Well, with today's economic crisis, many of my friends who were six-figure or very close to six-figure were just making it just like you and I. Now you take 2 months away from paying your rent, 2 months away from paying your mortgage. Oh, well, they get back pay. Well, when you remove those social nets, that back pay is already spent. Current policies favor punitive measures, handcuffs versus housing. We need more humane approaches. So let's dive into why we need those humane approaches. This word always gets me, so bear with me. Disproportionate impact on the marginal groups. And we've heard this over and over again in our conference, these marginal groups, because if we look in this room today, the majority is a part of that marginal group, the people of color. Black Americans and indigenous people are overrepresented in the homeless population compared to their share of the general population. Now keep that in mind because I'm gonna bring up another statistic later that really is gonna highlight this. And what's the impact of these enforced criminalization practices? Black unhoused individuals face significantly higher rates of citations under anti-homeless laws rather than white individuals. Now, this is nothing new in our great country of America. This disappropriation of citations, fines, and arrests has always been a part of our country. Unfortunately, we're getting hit directly in the face with it right now. And those who are experiencing the blunt of it are those who are trying to survive homelessness. And there's definitely a need for systemic policy changes. Racial disparities in homelessness stems from systemic racism in housing, economic, and criminal justice policies. Definitely all these things require some form of reform. Now, just to go over a few facts about mental health and homelessness, because this is very important when we're talking about criminalization of homelessness. 67% of all homeless individuals have current mental health disorders, including depression and PTSD. 67%. So now with the criminalization of homelessness are the handcuffs, as we say. What are we truly doing? We're increasing the mental health challenges of those who are experiencing homelessness. Stress and trauma from homelessness worsen mental health conditions and limits access to care. Limits access to care. Now, when we think about our health system as it is right now, when we're talking about mental health, we know in this country that we are already short the staff needed to provide the mental health, to address the mental health concerns that's prominent in America today. So now what we're going to do with criminalization, or the handcuffs of that, is just compound a problem that still needs to be addressed. Okay. So what are the solutions? Well, of course, we talk about supportive housing. Now, when we say supportive housing, we talk about housing first. And of course, housing first is not perfect. But housing first is a wheel that moves and a wheel that has shown proven results. It's like that tire that every now and then you may get a nail in, but you just need to plug it and it keeps on moving. But if we say the solution is criminalization, that's a flat tire sitting on a rim in a vehicle that never moves. So supportive housing and integrated care are essential to breaking the cycle of homeless and mental illness. So let's go over some historical and policy context as we bring this issue to fruition. Yes. Next one. Next one. And next one. Yep. And the next one. Yep. All right. So here's some of the trends in enforcement and demographics. Anti-homeless law enforcement increased significantly. Now keep these years in mind. They increased significantly between 2006 and 2019 across various bands targeting homeless behavior. 2006 and 2019. Here's an interesting number. The US population of people of color rose from 20% in 1980 to 42% in 2020, reflecting growing diversity. See a correlation there? 22% increase in people of color who almost took over the majority of the population in the United States. So all of a sudden, from 2006 to 2019, we have an increase in criminalizing those people experiencing homelessness. Let me share another statistic with you. 2019, 38 different states invested 3 times more money into incarceration and prisons than any other investment. All those years just kind of rolled together, don't they? So when we talk about the Grant Pass legislature and the passing of that bill, it wasn't the beginning of a new era. It's the culmination of what's been in place for an extremely long period of time. And now the ball is just rolling. Criminalization of homelessness disappropriately affects communities of color, reinforcing systemic inequities. So what are some of the solutions and alternatives? Once again, we talk about housing first, which is a proven strategy. As we heard at this conference today, it's not perfect, but it's a movement that works. It's a movement that has proven that it helps those who are experiencing homelessness. It provides stable housing without preconditions before offering supportive services to individuals. So can we improve on the supportive services once we get people housed? Absolutely. But the key ingredient will always be the key itself. Now, here's another number that you would think with this current administration who demands that we cut waste, that demands that we quit overspending, and has fired hundreds of thousands of people because we overspend. Let's see if this next statistic makes any sense. Supportive housing costs approximately $12,800 annually per person, which is significantly less than the $35,000 that is spent per person for emergency responses. And when we say emergency responses, we're not talking about the ambulance, and we're not talking about the ER room. We're talking about law enforcement. Now, in a country that we are striving in this administration to cut cost, we would spend $20,000 more to arrest a person throughout the year than to provide housing. Those numbers just don't add up. Cities like Seattle and Houston have reduced chronic homelessness using housing first, which demonstrates its effectiveness. Housing first improves individual outcomes and reduces public spending, making it attractive to policymakers and communities. But let me rephrase that. It should make it attractive to policymakers and communities. But we're in an environment right now that it does not. So the conclusion and the call to action. Harm of criminalization. Criminalizing homelessness worsens the crisis, and I say it's an epidemic, and unfairly impacts marginalized groups. That's not anything new though, right? Evidence-based strategies. Shifting to strategies focused on housing and healthcare. And dignity leads to better outcomes. So now is, yes, a call to action. What we've done here this entire week. Policymakers, community leaders, and people with lived experience must unite to dismantle the punitive systems and invest in solutions. All right. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gardner, who's going to address reform.
First of all, giving honor to God, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the precious Holy Spirit, and every angel encamped around us, and to each and every one of you, wonderful individuals who came in to listen to this going problem with criminalizing homeless people, also battles, uphill battles for those who are called returning citizens. My name is Donnell Gardner. I'm a native of the DMV, a son of Washington, D.C. I'm a man of faith first. I'm also a survivor of street life, incarceration, homelessness, and pain. And through my trials and tribulations, and through God's grace and mercy, I realized that you can rewrite your story. You don't have to be the same person that you used to be. There is transformation as I'm rewriting mine today. Oh, you get it. Back. Right there. Thank you. But before we dive into the criminalization and before we dive into returning citizens' uphill battles, I just want to say that before we even get into transition, before we get into healing, and before we even get into an individual's life or even their awareness, we must recognize their identity. I am penning a book now. It's called Look, Love, and Not Judge. And we have to be very conscious of putting individuals in a category when they're coming from prison or even coming from homelessness. We got to be very careful about judging them and placing them in categories. Now, that's not to say that you can put them in perspective, because you have to have perspective and you have to have strategies. So it's not a lot of time to talk about this issue, but we're going to dive right into this. Empowering returning citizens with uphill battles, restoration, restoring the dignity, rebuilding purpose, reclaiming power. And this is a positive affirmation. Every uphill battle builds stronger legs. So the more you press on, whether you're a provider, whether you're a case manager, navigator, most of all, lived experience or returning citizen, you got to get out there and walk. You got to do what you do. Next slide. Workshop overview designed to uplift, equip, empower returning citizens, and also navigating life after incarceration and hardship. Those coming from prison, because I've spent 10 years behind the walls in Florida, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not a pleasant place to be. Somebody asked me what it's like. I said, well, dying first without knowing who you are is number one. Being in the hospital, whatever situation you're in, is number two. Number three is being behind the walls, because there's no guarantee you coming out. A lot of people go right to prison and they get more time for a lot of reasons. So we're going to deal with blending faith, healing, practical tools to inspire information, transformation, and focus on three main goals. The first one is empowering through awareness, healing and mindset shift, tools for transition. Next slide. It deals with awareness. Awareness is very important, that you are aware who you are, where you are, and what you are. It's very hard when you spend a lot of time doing one thing. That circle that individuals are incarcerated with, they are using the tools, and their mindset is to stay right within that circle. A lot of people try to live outside the prison, but I lived inside. I adjusted because I know that was my home for many years, and I knew that I had to adjust inside. I didn't hold people and family members hostage on the outside, calling them, writing letters, wanting them to visit. I didn't want no visits. Letters, yes, send letters, because there's nothing like when you're incarcerated and you receive a letter or you get a notice from somebody on the outside, because a lot of them are forgotten people. You think homelessness is bad, and that's the invisible group? Well, those are coming from prison, are an invisible group. Whatever reason why they did what they did, or whatever bridges they burnt, we shouldn't hold them accountable, because guess what? They already did their time. They already did their time, and they're doing more time when they come out. And it's very hard to navigate. Yeah, we need help. Do some people need their hands to be held? Yes, they do. Because to be honest with you, a lot of us are locked up in our minds. We're in prison within our minds, within ourselves, from the trauma that we face in different categories and things of that such. So our first goal is to help participants understand their worth and their potential despite past challenges, empower them to see beyond their records and recognize that the value they bring to their families, workplaces, and communities. And the positive affirmation is, I am more than my past. I am the proof that change is possible. And change is possible with any and everybody. But you have to want it. You have to believe within yourself that you can change. You're not the person that you went to prison to be, or what you were charged with. There's a transformation that takes place. A lot of people don't transform. A lot of people don't believe. A lot of people lose faith. And the second goal is healing and mindset shift. And that's where I love, because without faith, it's impossible to me. My faith is through Jesus Christ. And I do a lot of praying and praising God. And I did a lot of praying, and I did a lot of fasting and a lot of meditation and reading while I was incarcerated. That's what helped me. I went to 15 different religions every week to find out what they were talking about. And I realized that most of the religions, whether Islam, whether it's a Buddha, whether it's Charles Smith, or the Mormons, Jehovah's Witness, they all taught one thing. All of them taught one thing. They had their different cultures and they had their different characters. They taught love, to love God first with all your heart, mind, soul, and body, and to love thy neighbor as thyself. So regardless of what religion you are, you got to follow those. So goal number 3, no, I'm sorry, we stay on 2. Provide practical guilt and self-doubt to promote self-forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, forgiving what you've done, asking God to forgive you. If you can write a letter, or if you can send that information on the phone, you got to ask people for forgiveness, because you've hurt a lot of people. A lot of people are hurt with you even in prison. My mother was embarrassed. And she told me it hurt her, because after 1 or 2 years, everybody asked her, well, where's Don for real? And she had to tell him, he in prison. It's embarrassing for your family. That your loved one, what did he do? What did she do? So the mindset, the forgiveness part, and the inner restoration encourage spiritual and mental strength through faith, resilience, and purpose, empowering participants to face uphill battles with courage and in hope. Light a fire and give them hope, give them a positive affirmation like, my healing begins with belief within myself. Faith gives me the strength to continue to rise. And the final thought is, it is not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves. And that's Sir Edmund Hillary. And I'll just share with you a little bit about my story. So the time that I was incarcerated, I realized that people suffer. Before I left there, they called me Red, because I kept a lot of people's hope alive. I prayed with them. I had individuals who come to me. I'm talking about murderers and pedophiles and a lot of people with different charges, man. And they wanted to know, hey, Brother Don, will God forgive me? You know, I molested my sister when she was 12 and molested other people's in my family. Can I be forgiven? I'm talking about in tears. I'm talking about grown men. This got 20 years. Yeah, I murdered this person. And I did this and I sold drugs and I did this and I did that. And yes, you can get restoration. Yes, God will forgive you. There's no sin that any of us have done that you can't be forgiven for. All you got to do is ask. I go to the cross. I don't know about you. And I get on my knees because I had to ask God to forgive me for going to those banks, for embezzlement. Yeah, I had to ask for forgiveness because I was wrong, taking money and doing things that wasn't mine. I made a lot of excuses to do it, but it wasn't right. They say crime doesn't pay, and that's so true. I had a couple of friends that committed suicide because they could not deal with the process while we were incarcerated. I had guys whose families were coming to see them that were in car accidents and died. I had a brother, we were real close, and his mother and father and uncle and cousins and their kids were coming to see him. And a tractor trailer ran a light and killed them all. That man blamed himself for that, man. He said, if I hadn't been here, Don, they wouldn't have died. And I had to sit with them for weeks and months to let them know that was God's will. They were coming, at least they were coming. But they're in a better place than you, and you need to get yourself out of it. I've been homeless. When I came out, the system didn't have halfway houses. In DC, they released 2,500 inmates, prisoners, or returning citizens, whatever you want to call them, into the system. And there's no halfway houses for them. There's no place for them to go. So they become homeless. So now you got another group of homeless people who did criminal activities. Now they're homeless. The recidivism rate is 7 to 10. 7 out of 10 individuals go back to prison because they have no hope. I surrounded myself. I promised God when I got out, I'm going to go to the first church I see. When I had 3 probation officers. I had a probation in Maryland, 1 in DC, and 1 in Virginia. I had 3 charges, 3 jurisdictions. But you know what never stopped me? I was determined I wasn't going back there because I never thought I'd go there. Now, me, you know, musician, you know, athlete, thought I was slicking it all. No, God said, I don't think so. He said, when I cried 3 days after being there, I said, Lord, why me? Holy Spirit said, why not you? Who are you? So I realized I had to decrease and let God increase. Man, I read every day. People say, what do people do? Where's the most books read? In prison and on the train. So I used that time wisely and I came out. And I thank God, you know, God have a sense of humor. Now I'm helping incarcerated people. I'm helping homeless people, working with the National Coalition for the Homeless, going around to different states and breaking down barriers of homeless. And that all Afro-Americans are not homeless. All drug addicts, people that do drugs and drink are homeless. That's not true. You got a percentage of homeless people that never been to prison, never been to jail, never did a drug or a drink. But it's the systemic and racism that's there. I met doctors and lawyers and teachers, professors, everybody out there. If you don't listen to their story, you don't know. People incarcerated, some of the most powerful people. I'm talking about, you talking about the artwork that they do and the poetry and the books they write? Powerful. It's just that we chose to do things that was contrary to the word of God. So in closing, I just want to say to each and every one of you, you look at a situation, look at a person, you may look at their files and look at their paperwork, and it's good to just look at it, analyze it, put it into perspective. Don't judge them because it's maybe somebody in your family. I'm sure everybody have somebody that's been in prison or jail, or maybe yourself. Somebody said, not judge. Say it again, not judge. It takes power. It takes the love of God. It takes compassion. And all of us in here have it. That's why we're here. Somebody say love. Say it again. One more time. Well, we could get a choir here in a minute. That sounds good because that's from your heart. And that's what it takes. Not the love of the system or the love, I'm getting my paycheck. Yeah, I'm getting paid. You know, I wrote this grant. No, love and compassion for individuals, one person at a time. That's what it takes. And I believe with all the talent that's in this room, all the gifts that's in this room, we can weed out all that evil and all those barriers and all those battles. Because I believe with the right drop of blood or water, which is love, can fill the ocean. God bless you and peace be with you.
Phenomenal to me. Yesterday, a young lad and I bonded, and he had a court date with his attorneys because he was homeless and they locked him up. So I just felt so close to him. And again, he and I bonded. And so I can't wait to speak with him this afternoon to see how his court date went. But because no crime, not bad, but was sleeping in the street, they locked him up, and today was his court date. That's why he couldn't be at this session.
I appreciate that. That's good.
So as we're talking about criminalization of homelessness and reform and empowerment for returning citizens, does anyone have any questions or comments that you want to share or ask?
I'm loud enough that I don't need it, but I'll take it. I really truly believe that we are all guardian angels in disguise, because you don't know where you're going to get your help or who is going to be delivering that message you need to hear. So love, 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 love. Oh,
That reminds me of a quote real quick. This is from ex-President Jimmy Carter. Yeah, I'm actually going to quote President in this presentation. If you know anything about his administration at that time, he was a stone supporter of poverty and a supporter of those who is experiencing homelessness. And this is a quote that always stays with me. It says, "The measure of a society is found in how it treats its weakest and most helpless citizens."
I have the mic. I'd just like to say thank you for your courage, transparency, and sharing your stories and what you come to, the knowledge you've come to obtain. And I too am a returning citizen. I have a DCDC and a Fed number. I don't focus on my DCDC and Fed number, but coming back into society these days is really hard. So we need more services like the Hope Foundation for returning citizens who slowly, it's the reentry program. And when you graduate from the reentry program, they've already like instilled in you and given you all the resources you needed, got them set up with a case manager for housing and things like that. And I hope we can have some more organizations like that all across the United States.
Thank you.
That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that too. Anybody else have a question?
Oh, we've got questions in Hoover, Don. In the chat, in the chat. No,
Here's chat.
okay. Go.
Yeah, I'm sorry I came in late. I was doing an interview,
Mhm.
but just in looking at the slide before this, I wonder how much emphasis is put on support, not just from programs, but also from the individuals who people will come home to and their circles. And because you're coming back to potentially to a pre-existing situation or building a new situation. So I just wonder how that comes into the whole part of reentry.
You want to take that down, the first part?
Yeah, it's very important what you said. I'm glad you asked that. It's devastating because services, there's no money for us. There's no housing, no halfway houses for us. So we become homeless. You don't have somebody that would accept you back. You're not in a support group. I got my support, returning citizen. I surround myself with brothers, sisters, and the pastor circled me and was that he said, we're going to make sure gentlemen don't go back. I was the first person who joined that church who came from prison, but it's very hard. Glad you asked that because the system is set up not to help us. I mean, come on, the bottom line, it's systemic. So,
and yeah, there's nothing in place that it should be in regards to helping the family members. What we do have in place is us, everybody sitting in this room, because as we share our experiences and as we share our story by using the National Coalition of the Homeless and all the other avenues that we have as people with lived experience, sharing our story opens the door to family members who don't understand the struggle. It opens the door to administrators and policymakers to understand that these things need to be in place. So that's the avenue and why we're here this week. And that's what we need to keep in mind. Yeah,
Take that first.
she needs a mic.
So Stephanie Ramos asked, what are qualities, for example, growth mindset, resilience, self-discipline, does it take for someone to experience homelessness and then change their quality?
That's a very long-winded question, but I'm gonna try to give a very succinct answer. Every person is different. Every one of us sitting in this room is different. So as we address the concerns that each person has, we have to be patient. So my drive was never Don's drive. My drive was never the drive John had. My drive would never be Francis's drive. We have to meet people where they're at, provide what we can at that particular time, and then wait for them to be able to accept that change, because trauma affects us, each one of us differently, and everyone's trauma is differently. You had one more?
Okay. Okay. And Felicia Applewhite asked, if homelessness is treated like a crime, how do we make legal education a core part of homeless services so people know their rights and aren't punished for surviving?
There are many agencies out there that educate the community on our rights and for those who are experiencing homelessness, especially shelters, case managers, and et cetera, that help out. But more importantly than anything else is, why are we here today? And we have to publicize the fact that criminalization of homelessness is a thing. It's not a theory. It happens every day, but we whitewash it, depending on which news channel you happen to watch it that day, depending on how fast you turn through your TV screen. We whitewash it. We move it in encampment and tell people that there's housing. They have places to go, but they don't understand the underlying causes of A, why they're there, B, maybe there's a reason why they don't go to the next shelter. Maybe there's a reason why something may have happened to them in the past. But we whitewash the fact that criminalization of homelessness is a thing because we don't have to see it. So we have people here like Kalita. We have the House for Film, if I've saying it wrong, representative here. We have to tell our stories. That's how we educate people on their rights. We have to tell the story, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's in our public speaking engagements. We have to get our narrative out to fight back the narrative that the community is currently seeing.
and also, thank you, Jeff. Also, the PFFC, People's Coalition, they got their boots on the ground every week, 2 or 3 days a week, and they're sharing their story because they're lived, experienced people. But the main thing is we got to be honest with these individuals. Not be fictitious and telling them they can do this and do that, knowing that it's not. It's okay to tell a homeless person, it's okay to tell a person that's been criminalized like myself, there's no housing right now, Don. There is no money for you right now. But let's work on some other areas in your life, like maybe your mental challenge or getting back with your family, or maybe just getting your license.
Thank you both for this great presentation. I did want to comment, though, on the idea that there isn't anything out there. I was facilitating a focus group not more than a week ago. And it was a man there because people were saying, you know, we have all these false hopes, you know, there just isn't anything. And he spoke up and he said, I got out of prison recently and I'm moving into my place tomorrow. And he had the same mindset you talked about. He came out, whether or not there was anything, he was determined to get up every day and start, you know, hitting the ground, looking for, talking with people, asking, how do I find out about the programs? And he mentioned that there's a lot of programs that, because there isn't enough resources, they're not going to just tell everybody about those programs. The person, though, that perseveres and asks, like, hey, well, what might a program be that I could be eligible for, or that's intended to help people just like me? And he said he really had to stay with it. He would get discouraged, but he would tell himself, like you were telling yourself, I'm not going back there, you know? And so through his kind of perseverance to he's in his own place.
Hi, Tiffany DuVernay Smith from Los Angeles. I want to, along the same lines of what we're talking about right now, uplift Darlene Burke in Los Angeles. She's the executive director of 10 Toes In, started about 11 years ago. I believe when her partner was incarcerated. And so their mission is to serve as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program, supporting, educating, and empowering couples during and after incarceration. So just very proud of her and things that she's accomplishing. And now she does real estate and she has helped some people become homeowners that were incarcerated. And so I'm just here to say that this is up to us. It's up to us. Because as a wife of someone incarcerated 35 years, I don't participate in the 10 Toes In. But I do want to pull together, and it's not that easy because people know people who know people, so you can't really say your business because then again, that's my concern. My husband ain't having none of that. But I do want to pull together some kind of way in my community people who love incarcerated or formerly incarcerated people. And I'm just having this revelation right now. That's why my emotions are here right now. But I just fell in love with formerly incarcerated people. It happened when I was single and what I was encountering while I was dating versus when people in LA got released and I'm encountering them. I'm like, wow, these men have been reading, these men have been thinking, these men have goals, and it's just I had a flip mentally, a whole nother level of, respect. And so thanks for letting me share that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was very powerful. I kind of have a question that's a little more broad. So this whole conference, right, and especially this session, it's really centered around bringing folks in who have had experiences with criminal justice or housing issues. And a lot of times folks don't see their own power. And so my question is, how do you help folks see the power that they have? Because you've been in places and spaces where you've been told you don't. And now you're re-entering and folks are like, oh, great, lived experience. Like, talk about your story, like get in front of this person or that person or motivate for change. But how do you do that when you don't see the power in your own voice?
Well, that's a beautiful, beautiful question. I sat in on a training, and I sound like a walking promotion for National Coalition for the Homeless. But I sat in on a training, a leader training, and Don Whitehead had approached me, and I thought I had found my mission. I'm getting a little teary-eyed myself. I thought I had found my mission of helping others and um, working in the system of those surviving homelessness and helping them transition into housing. And I found joy in that. And I sat in on a leader training, and Donald Whitehead and that leader group showed me that you have more of a voice than what you think. You can do more with your voice than just move one person. Let me show you how to move 10 people. Let me show you how to stand in front of someone who won't even see you one day and express the rights of other people. Let me show you how to find people that can make change. And let me set you in a room of 100 people as you share your story. And when they leave, maybe 50 of those will go out and touch someone else's life. So to get other people to raise their voice begins with you sharing yours, because they may not move to action that particular day, but hearing you, seeing you, and watching you will do those things. When I look at people in Tiffany sitting in that back room, and as she shares her story and she breaks down to be so soft, it's one of the strongest women that you will ever meet. But at some point in time, she had to find her voice too. So just take time and share your story, and you will help other people find their voice.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback. This isn't my presentation, so I won't go into that answer. But John, we are very transparent with people that we serve. I'm on the HMIS. I sit at the table. I put people into the homeless management information system, and I sit at the CAP table through People for Fairness Coalition as the assistant director and someone on the peer mentoring team. We do have DHS, DBH, and TCP approved units. So that I'm very transparent and honest that we don't have vouchers, but we do have approved units. I just need to get you documentation ready. So as long as you're being open and transparent, the people you're working with, they know what they're working with and they can live in their reality.
God, that's good there. And just to piggyback on what the young lady asked, Danielle, I just want to say that being an individual that's been incarcerated, and you mentioned about how do we pull out of them, is that when we listen to them, they have gifts that they can share, and you got to listen to them and find the gifts that they share. Because we can send them here, there, everywhere, but if we don't listen to them and find the gifts and the talents that they have, then they'll just be another person in the system. So it's important that we listen to them and pull the gifts out of them and allow them to share their gifts and their talent that has been hidden or been traumatized, and help them lift it up, whether it's music, whether it's their own business. Help them there. It's because everybody got gifts and everybody have talents. God bless. We have time for one more. Oh, we do have time.
Yeah, just real quick, just wanted to just like on the criminalization piece, because the late Mr. Michael Stoops, we actually worked here in Washington D.C. for that that criminalization piece, the Michael Stoops anti-discrimination legislation that we worked on for 10 years, and in combination with the National Coalition for the Homeless, it actually became the Human Rights Enhancement Act here in Washington D.C., and it put homeless people as protected class. But the other piece I want to add, what I'm saying, that legislation, and as we're moving forward on a national level, because I look at DC as ground zero, a lot of what we've been able to accomplish here in the city, you still have laws that's on the book that still criminalize people in general. And the other piece is the DC Justice Lab in Washington, D.C. also have a lot of public policy initiatives that they work on, specifically around returning citizens. We had a lot of different individuals who were returning citizens who offered insight and some programming and policies uh, related to returning citizens and how they can reintegrate into society and not have to go into, come out of prison and then come into homelessness. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, to this young lady over here, it took me a long time, about 35 years ago, to find my voice. And some of the things that helped me was discovering a lot of the truths and lies within myself and also my life and story. Discovering that I wasn't dumb, discovering that I wasn't broken, discovering a lot of my traumas that I've been through, and start caretaking myself and loving myself and forgiving myself. A little by little, of that healing, I started finding my voice and learning how to use it. And it took a long time. It took me over 10 years, but I got there.
I think you want to say something real quick and we let everybody go.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up from here.
I just want to say, as an advocate and going to community events, I notice my husband interacting with a lot of people. I'm like, how do you know all these people, right? And men were saying, I love you. Do you know who this guy is? He would like stop him and stop him and stop him. Listen, if anybody needs hope about anything, just come talk to me, because I am full of it. And for the first time, I'm about to declare myself as a hope dealer. So if you need some, come get some. And what I discovered is that my husband became the jailhouse lawyer and has helped over like 700 people get out. And that's why they say, I love you, because they're free.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I hope some of you guys are attending the conference in Washington, D.C. on the 20th.
I'm trying to end the meeting.